Hello children, today we'll do the second module of the lesson, The Ashes That Made the Trees Bloom. In the first module, we saw how a dog named Mukko was living happily with his old couple. The old couple loved this dog as if it was his own son. And this dog went with his master to the fields every day. One day, he found treasure for his master. Master got a pile of gold in that farm, in that field. The man was so happy that he bought a piece of land, he prepared a feast for his friends, and he donated generously to his poor neighbors. In the same village, there lived a wicked old couple. When they came to know that this dog had brought fortune for his master, they brought this dog to their own house, offered good food, and they coaxed the dog to find treasure for these old wicked couple. But the dog was so scared that he refused to eat and even refused to move also. Then this wicked couple, they dragged the dog to the ground, and when the dog came near a pine tree, he started digging. This cruel couple thought it was some treasure or something, and when they started digging, they only found a dead cat. A dead kitten. They were so furious that they killed this dog and buried him there. Now let's see what happens. Page number 57, the last paragraph. The owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet, and mourning for him as if he had been his own child, went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes in the ground, such as are used before tombs, in which he put fresh flowers. Then he laid a cup of water and a tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks of incense. He mourned a great while over his pet, calling him many dear names, as if he were alive. So what happened, children? That old man, the real owner of this dog, he heard about his pet's death. How sad he might have felt, no children? Now what did he do? The incident of the dog's death reached the ear of its owner. He felt so sad, as if he had lost his own son. So he went to the place where his pet was buried. Where was he buried, children? Under the pine tree, isn't it? He mourned for this loss for a long time, and he performed all the rituals which generally those people do when they lose somebody nearby. What all things he did, children? He brought some bamboo tubes and he set up it as they do it before the tombs. Then he put some fresh flowers. He laid a cup of water and some food also. He also burned some costly incense, and he sat there and cried. He called all the pet names to his dog, as if he was alive. He mourned for a long time. He called him many dear names. But will the dog come now, children? No. They had killed the dog, isn't it? Now let's see what happens in the next paragraph. That night, the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, "Cut down the pine tree over my grave and make from it a mortar for your rice pastry and a mill for your bean sauce." So that night, children, the spirit of the dog appeared in this old man's dream. It asked him to cut down the pine tree over its grave and to make a mortar for rice pastry and a mill for his bean sauce. What do you mean by mortar, children? Mortar means a cup-shaped structure in which ingredients are crushed. So now we move on to the next paragraph. So the old man chopped down the tree and cut out of the middle of the trunk a section about 2 feet long. With great labor, partly by fire, partly by the chisel, he scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. He then made a long-handled hammer of wood, such as is used for pounding rice. When the New Year's time drew near, he wished to make some rice pastry. When the rice was all boiled, Granny put it into the mortar. The old man lifted his hammer to pound the mass into dough, and the blows fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. Suddenly, the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins. When the old women took the hand mill and filling it with beans began to grind, the gold dropped like rain. So the old man followed what the spirit of the dog told him. He chopped down the tree and he cut out a middle section or middle part of the trunk, round about 2 feet long. Then, with too much of hard work, he used fire as well as chisel to scrape out a hollow piece to make a motor. He was trying to make a motor, isn't it? So he scraped out a hollow piece which was somewhat like a small bowl. Then he made a long handle also, because he had to pound the rice, isn't it, children? So when this was ready, and when New Year's time came, he wished to make some rice pastry. So what happened? The wife, she boiled the rice, and then she put it into the mortar, and this old man lifted his hammer to crush the mass of rice. He wanted to make it into a dough. And when the blows fell, heavy blows fell, and the rice was crushed, and it was almost ready for baking. Then what happened, children? Suddenly, the whole mass turned into a big heap of gold coins. And when this old woman, she took the hand mill. She was supposed to make the bean sauce, isn't it? And when she filled it with the beans, and when she wanted to grind it, what happened, children? Instead of the sauce, gold dropped like rain. Can you imagine? They became rich again. The spirit of the dog is helping now. They were so happy. But what happened? Who was watching all this thing? The jealous neighbors. Now I move on to the next paragraph. Meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window when the boiled beans were being ground. "Goody me!" cried the old hag as she saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold, until, in a few minutes, the tub under the mill was full of shining mass of gold. Now those jealous neighbors, they were watching what was happening. The word envious means jealous. The word peeped means to look. So they were looking through the window and they were watching what these two people were doing. And what did they see? They saw that the bean sauce was turning into gold. The old lady just couldn't believe. She said, "Oh my God, look at this. What is happening? Instead of sauce, gold is dripping down." And the tub under the mill was full of the mass of gold. So now, what will they do, children? They will ask for this mill, isn't it? So now, we move on to the next paragraph. So the old couple were rich again. The next day, the stingy and wicked neighbor came and borrowed the mortar and magic mill. They filled one with boiled rice and the other with beans. Then the old man began to pound and the women to grind. But at the first blow and turn, the pastry and sauce turned into a foul mass of worms. Still more angry at this, they chopped the mill into pieces to use as firewood. Obviously, these cruel neighbors, they couldn't see that this old couple were becoming rich again. So what did they do? They decided to borrow this mortar and the mill. So what happened? They came and asked. They came to borrow this mortar and magic mill, and they did as they had seen. They filled one with boiled rice and the other was filled with beans. They had to make rice pastry and bean sauce, isn't it? But when they began to pound it, children, what came out? It turned into a foul mass of worms. They expected gold, but what did they get? They got only worms. They were so angry that they destroyed the mill and they burnt it. So again, they tried to harm this old couple. Now, I come to the end of the second module.